Clip of the day.
So I'm listening to C-SPAN, and I just wanted to play this because this is the climate. Play the climate change thing. We're going to do a climate gate thing here.
Do you want the climate gate first, or you just want
the theme? Yeah, the theme.
Okay, let me do that first. Where are we?
To the gate, to the gate, to the climate gate.
You need to set it up, or we go straight into it?
I just love that bird. No, we're going to do. I have to set it up. So I'm watching. This is a hearing on coal, and there's this California Democrat character, and the only reason I want to play this clip is because I know people who are in the business of climatology and the rest, and that you ask them about climate change, and they say, well, there might be climate, but they're all doubtful that it's human induced and all the rest of it because there's just the number. They always show this carbon spike, but that's at the top of a bigger number. And they say, well, why don't you say something? You can't say anything because you essentially get shouted down if you say anything that's against the litany. Here we are.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Here we are with a douchebag who's got 4 people brought in front of Congress, and instead of asking him questions about the future of coal and all the rest, he literally makes them say whether they're for or against climate change. And I've never seen questioning like this. This is almost like an interrogation. And then the irony is all these experts say, no, I'm not. They either lie or they say, they're forced to say yes. But there's one guy, the first guy is black, and he says, well, we're looking into it. And, well, don't you believe it? And he said, well, and he jumps around by answering funny. The second guy does the same thing. He says no. And then he says, what do you mean? And he says, oh, well, we kind of. I know that the evidence is there. You have to listen to this and you'll see what I'm talking about.
Now I yield to 4 minutes to the ranking member, Mr. Swalwell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For our witnesses, it is pretty evident now after a number of scientific studies that 97% of scientists agree that human activities are causing climate change. And so I want to ask just each one of you whether you agree or disagree with the 97% of scientists who believe in that. Mr. Smith, do you agree or disagree?
We agree that most of our programs are focused very strictly on reducing CO2 emissions and greenhouse gas emissions.
But do you agree that climate change is caused by human activities?
We do agree that this is something we need to address, so we agree.
Mr. Yamagata, agree or disagree?
You're not going to like this answer. We don't.
Is it agree or disagree?
We don't take a position on that issue. It's not something that we want to deal with. What we want to deal with is if public policy determines that this is an issue, we've got to have the technologies available to address it.
How about you personally, Mr. Yamagata? Do you agree or disagree?
I think there's a lot of information out there that suggests so.
Okay. Mr. Collins, do you agree or disagree?
Yeah, Congressman Swalwell, I would say, probably won't like my answer either. There are multiple contributions to what people consider climate change, and it is not all just man, anthropogenic sources. So that statement, in my mind, is incomplete. So that's why I cannot agree to the question as
Do you agree that human activity has played a substantial role in climate change?
The human activity releases a lot of energy into the environment that contributes to the warming. But I also view that CO2 is an untapped resource, and we need to start thinking about how we utilize that. We live in a carbon-rich world. You and I are carbon-based life forms. To consider living in a carbon-free world, to me, sounds like suicide.
All right. And Ms. Greenwald, do you agree or disagree with the 97%?
We agree. I focus on the technology solution side of our organization, but we do have a staff that focuses on science, and we do work in that area.
Wait a minute. When was this on C-SPAN?
About a week ago.
All right. Bend over.
Clip of the day.
Wow. Were you just saving that for the end just to to get me there?
No, it was one of these little things I thought was a nice aside.
That was fantastic. It was a total
Shut up already. It's science.
Science.
Yeah, no, total. It's a shut up slave moment.
But they all.
How do you don't believe it? I mean, the guy was like a prick.
But even more important, these people, no one would cop to it. Like, well, you're not going to like my answer, but wow, that's fantastic.
Yes, I thought it was. I was taken aback when I saw that.
Wow.